Yo, yo, yo. This is Candy B Knittin. I'm Candy B. I be knitting. I'm also known as @Whirled on Instagram. And today I'm going to be Candy B spinning. I'm going to talk all about what I've been up to as far as spinning yarn. First things first, the sweater I'm wearing is hand knit. It is from a rustic worsted yarn from Neighborhood Fiber Co. It's discontinued. Sorry. I feel like I'm gonna have to start like a drinking game or like a tally of how many times I say, "Oh, this is discontinued," or this was from a D stash on Instagram, and I don't believe that they dye this yarn anymore. So I won't go too far into detail. But if you are in, at least in the United States of America, I don't know. I'm actually never mind because I've seen people all over the world. Um, where I live, there's a cold snap happening, and chances are where you live, there's a cold snap happening where you are now. So usually I have my little tank top on because I get rather warm when I start moving around and talking, but today I have a sweater on because it is quite chilly. But to the spinning, I have been doing the 100 days of drop spindling. Andrea Mowry, aka Drea Renee Knits, and I think Melanie Duarte, who's what is it, Porch Pegasus, and a couple of other people. I'm not sure. I don't want to give credit to any one person, but they got together as a group and decided, hey, we're going to try to spin every day. And then what if we did it for 100 days straight? And then it kind of caught fire from there. And so I decided to join in. December 1st, I started. So today is January 21st. And so today is 52 days in a row that I have been spindle spinning. And here's the latest spindle I have finished. And I just wanted to kind of check in and talk about my progress and my thoughts so far. I do believe it's made me a better spinner. It's made me more appreciative of the drop spindle. I am getting more done on the drop spindle than I thought I was, because usually I do have the feeling that, oh, this is so slow and, I don't have time and da-da-da, but literally just making 15 minutes a day, I have made the time and I have made progress. So as of right now, I have 4 drop spindles I've been using, and I've just been making these little balls. They're like 18, 20 gram balls, and I'll just hold it up to and don't really have a plan with this. These are odds and ends from Into the World. Here's my bag of the other ones. And it was just something to practice. It started in December, so this is during Advent, Christmas season, off from work. And so it was just a fun way to make it interesting, because I have these little odds and ends that are all different colors. And so I was like, oh, every day there's different colors and different textures and different fibers. And it's kind of kept me going. I am, however, at the point where it's starting to wear a little thin. Like, at this point, I would only do the full 100 days because I feel like I have to, or it's a novel idea, or that's what I signed up for. But I have to also consider the fact that this is my hobby and it is for fun, and the fact that I'm moving more into, like, this was like practicing with the drop spindle and getting to a certain level of comfortableness with the drop spindle. And now I would like to actually more intentionally plan things to spend for certain projects. And so just, once I finish these odds and ends, these are the last 2 I have, thumbnail. And this is going to take me like maybe 5 days to spin this, because I have a little bit on the drop spindle now. And so I'm definitely going to finish this particular project before the end of the 100 days. And then I'm kind of sitting there like, should I just start something new and just start spinning all this fiber on the drop spindle that I have no real plan for, when I could be, actually sitting down, taking the time to write, and that's not conducive with like, okay, I have to spin today, So I might spin all of this up, and then I'm going to do some plying. And at first I was thinking I was going to chain ply it all to kind of protect the color shift between each day of yarn and each type of fiber. but I'm thinking I'm just going to 3-ply them together because these are the odds and ends from Into the World, so they don't tell you what any of the fiber content is. And I've come by very different fiber types. Like they say on the packaging. I might say it on the packaging. Yeah, it says may include assorted wool breeds, and Corriedale, Merino, any of those breeds, and they're all very different. May include yak, camel, superwash, bamboo, silk, nylon, cashmere. I've definitely come by some sort of superwash. I've definitely come by some sort of prickly animal fiber that I could not identify, but I knew it wasn't wool. And so I'm thinking if I 3-ply it, it might balance out some of the, first of all, the inconsistencies, because I had to spin those yarns with a different thickness. I kind of rushed through some of the superwash stuff because it just was very hard for me to deal with. But also, if I do have, yards and yards of superwash, that yarn is going to behave very differently. So maybe adding the wool to it, or, a yak or whatever other animal or bamboo in there will add some integrity and make it more uniform across, theoretically. In reality, this is maybe going to be 120 grams of yarn. So if anything, it's going to be a hat somewhere down the line or mittens somewhere down the line. So I'm not super concerned with it being, comparable to something I'm going to find in stores, or, it's probably going to pill. It's probably going to do this, probably going to do that. So I'm not super hung up on that, but I think 3-ply is going to get me closest to a yarn that I'm going to be able to use in a real way, or in a way that I'm confident in. So that brings me to, what next? I do like the idea of a blankety blank, doing something for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of days in a row, because I do find that, like I said, I do use the excuse, oh, I don't have time to do that, or, by the time I get things set up, or I'd rather spend my time knitting, or I'd rather spend my time doing that. And then, next thing you know, weeks and months have gone by and I could have accomplished the thing that I was putting off in that time. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to transition to doing fiber prep every day, 15 minutes a day, because right now I have 2 fleeces and they've been washed, but they need to be carded. Some of them need to be blended. Some of them I want to do some dyeing with. And so if I get kind of in my head where I'm just like, oh, I have, literally pounds of fiber. But if I break it down into, small chunks, I don't have to spend a whole weekend, lugging yarn around and lugging fiber around and blending that, next thing you know, I'm at my drum carder, standing at my drum carder for 5 hours on a Saturday. I believe it's going to be a lot more productive and a lot more, what's the word? I think I'll get a lot more out of it and be a lot happier in the end if I just break it into little chunks. And also the problem is I get very impatient. And so I'm like, oh, I have to get everything done this Saturday. And then I start making mistakes and things don't come out the way I would like them to. That being said, let me show you some of the fiber I'm working with right now. I have 2 fleeces right now. One is, it is a Gotland crossed with Shetland, and it's this yarn here. And my plan is, this is fleece A, and I put this on the drum carder. I spun it up. I did a 2-ply. Super drapey. It's very soft. And it's kind of got a lot of gray to it. And so I think it's going to be very interesting as far as dyeing goes, because then I can kind of use that gray to get different values. And then I have this Coopworth that came from a fleece, and this has already been dyed. This is my one I dyed with coffee. And this is much more of a, this yarn, this wool, I would say is like, it's kind of almost got like a silky kind of drapey quality to it. And this one is much more like substantive and kind of dense almost. And so I did a 2-ply out of this. And so I want to, spin both of them, see how I feel about the breeds. I'm still kind of in this learning phase. Don't take anything, I take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm still very much a beginner. I have not read the fleece and fiber book. So if I describe a fleece a certain way, I'm not saying, oh, this fleece is fine with a capital F, like a fine wool. I'm saying, oh, it feels fine to me. And so I'm kind of more in the discovery phase. And so this is a good place to start. I got 2 fleeces I can compare and contrast. This one, like I said, is very much like, like light and fluffy and silky. And this one is a lot more dense. And so then I got the idea, oh, what if I combine them together? And so my idea is I'm going to knit that. I've spun this. I combined them into one bat, and that's on the spindle right now. And then I'm going to apply this one. This is them carded together, and it kind of, the finer, fluffier wool, and then the denser wool. So it was like toothy, but also smooth. And I think that they combined very well. And then I'm going to apply this one up. And then once I do that, I'm probably going to make like a hat or something where I combine all 3 and I knit a little bit with this, knit a little bit with this, knit a little bit with this, and then kind of almost like, like a breed study basically. And, take my notes and see how it turns out and see what these yarns might be good for, what I might want to use them for. Do I want to blend them with other things? And so I'm just kind of in a experimental creative phase right now. That's one of my kind of things I wrote down for 2024 in my journal, was to just kind of play a little bit more. And I have my drum carder, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of dyeing. I want to get more into natural dyeing, and so I think these natural fleeces are a good place to start. But I also want to get the fiber blend just right before I go down that path. So that's that. I did a terrible job hanging this up. And so that's my biggest plan right now, but I've only carded up this much, and I have probably 3 or 4 pounds of each one to go. I have much more of the Coopworth, so I want to be kind of precious with the Shetland Gotland, but I don't want to cut myself short by not sampling. And before I jump into a bigger project, that looks better. The thing though with this too, going back to doing the 15 minutes a day thing, this is a lock of that Gotland Shetland cross, and it's I don't know if y'all can see how shiny this is, but it's super soft, super shiny. And at first I washed it, and then I ran it right through my drum carder, and I got a lot of neps. And I think that's because, one, surprise, surprise, meeting me, I'm quite price sensitive, and so I really do try to get the most out of the things that I buy. And so I'm not always as judicious as I should be when I'm skirting my fiber. And so sometimes I get locks that, if you are into spinning and you want to get into spinning, I always recommend, and a lot of other people, a lot more professional people will agree with me, find the best quality stuff that you could possibly afford. And so and that's just going to save you down the line as far as your patience and the joy of spinning. But what happens to me is I see a certain lock, I'm like, oh, that one doesn't look too great. That looks, the lock structure isn't uniform, or there's different parts of the sheep where some of the texture of the locks are different than other textures of the locks. There's second cuts, there's vegetable matter, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I can make it work, or that one's a little bit short, but and the next thing I've run things through my drum carder that I don't want to spin, and then I'm making the spinning process more difficult for myself. So I do want to take a step back and be more judicious, laying out my locks, making sure they're all of comparable length before I make a bat, and keeping all the locks with the same lock structure together. This Gotland, I told y'all, has a gray tint to it, and there's some locks that are more gray than others, and I think I'm going to save myself some heartache down the line if I separate the darker grays from the lighter grays, especially as I go into dyeing and stuff like that. That's going to make my life a little bit easier. And, like I said, putting that pressure on myself to get, everything done in an afternoon is going to make for more mistakes. It's going to make for a spinning experience that's not ideal. And so I've been taking the time, I've been watching a little TV in the evenings and just taking the time to open up the locks a little bit, like flicking the ends on my hand carders, opening up the tips, seeing if there's any, nitty naughty bits or any, there's, some little second cuts here and there, and just making sure that it's super pristine before I run it through my drum carder, because I don't want to make things worse. And then, or while I'm spinning, picking things out while I'm spinning, I could have saved myself a little bit of labor on the front end. So that's that. That's my grand scheme. I hope y'all understood that. It's very hard to explain my thought process to an iPhone, knowing that another person is going to hear the words I'm saying and not necessarily understand where I'm coming from. And then I'm like talking, and then I'm listening to myself talk at the same time, and it's hard to edit oneself while you're talking and trying to listen to yourself talk at the same time. Anyway, I don't want to go on for too long, so right now I'm just going to show y'all some of the yarn that I've spun up recently. I've already shown y'all my fleeces that I've been working on, and then I have more on the bobbins, and I'm processing more. This is some of that Coopworth that's freshly washed, and yeah, like I said, I just open up the tips a little bit and get it ready to go. Super, I would call this long, but I don't know if it's classified as a long wool, but about 4 to 5 inches lock length. I'm trying to figure out microns. That's my next goal, is to do some reading about microns, because that's a concept that eludes me. This is freshly washed green goat ranch. If y'all recall, I bought the Fraggle Rock Plying pairs, and this is Doozer's Domes. And so this is a Fraggle Rock reference, where the green represents our friends the Doozers, and the pinks and the oranges in here represent the little helmets that they wear while they're working. They're like little construction worker guys. This is merino and rambouillet. I believe the green is the merino, the pink and orange is the rambouillet. And I enjoy these just for, like, I don't want to say filler, but just so I can be at my wheel spinning and not have to think about it, because it's called a plying pair. So it comes in 2 braids. One of it's the green, one of it's the pink and orange, or whatever the pairing is. And, short forward draw one braid, short forward draw the other braid, and then I ply them together. And so it's a nice little break from all of the mathematics and science of doing something like this and making sure that I'm being consistent. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. This is much closer to what I would call my default, and I don't have to think too much about it. I will say, for the people that, if you've never had Green Goat Ranch, I love her. I love her yarn. I love her fiber. The positive thing about this for most people is that she puts a lot of white into the plying pair. So the pinks really pop, the oranges really pop, but the end result is a lot more subtle than you might think it's going to be. And so that is good. A little bit more, I don't mind, harsh clashing colors, but I think that this result will blend better with things that I already have in stash, and it gives it almost like a botanical quality to it. Don't believe I am a fan of rambouillet. Merino, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, because I started spinning with merino, and then after that learned a lot of people don't recommend you start spinning with merino. But now I kind of like, it's the beast I know, and so I can deal with it. It's a little bit more slippery than, people say that you should start with like a more toothy or rustic type wool than a merino. But once I start treadling and I get my rhythm, I can deal with it. The rambouillet Rambouillet is actually a relative of the merino, but I need to get the fleece and fiber book because I need to find the words to describe what the experience is. But it's like merino where it's silky, but then it's also like denser and more compacted than a merino. And so like there's like more like it's not very airy. Let me put it to that way. So I'm thinking what I need to do is probably like run it through my drum carder before, because what I did was I steamed it to open it up. And so it was I believe I did I don't think Green Goat Ranch felted it at all. It's very well dyed. I steamed it, I opened it up, I drafted it, but then there's still like this tendency for it to like want to just be together and be, I get like kind of thicker spots in it than I do with I'm able to spin a thinner merino than I am a Rambouillet. Let me put it like that. And so I don't know if, maybe running it through my gem carder, putting a little bit more air in it might help. But I don't think it's one of my faves. But I do have a lot of this because I bought the Fraggle Rock set, and so I'm going to have to deal with it one way or the other. It is a yarn. It's funny because I think I talked about this before, where the things that you want to knit versus the things you want to wear, the things that you want to spin versus the things you want to knit with. And so I would love to buy a sweater quantity of Rambouillet because it's like bouncy and it's dense and it's got body to it, and it's soft like a merino. So it makes amazing yarn, but is the spinning experience that fun? Not for me. But the thing is, I love to spin with like the toothier rustic wools, but I don't know so much if I like to knit with them. And so it's just an ever evolving taste, I guess you could say. I did finish I've shown this before, but I had a little bit more fiber left, and so I did finish the melanated boho bay. It's funny because it's January 21st, and so in a few weeks it's going to be Valentine's Day again, and this was her Valentine's Day bundle from last year, and I just finished it, just washed it, and so you guys can do the math with how long it takes me to get something into stash and to get something out of stash. So I don't think I'm going to be getting another Valentine's Day bundle because I have quite the backlog of other fiber to get through, but I do feel like that's a good, I should give myself more credit. I bought this last Valentine's Day and I finished spinning it before the next Valentine's Day. I'm going to own that. My plan with this is to do some sort of color work, and maybe I can find a pattern that has like hearts on it or something like that. I think it would be cute to do an actual Valentine's Day themed item with my Valentine's Day yarn. I do have just regular Gotlin. I don't think I have it with me though. That I got in a D-stash. I have about 8 ounces of just straight Gotlin, and it's like a dark gray, and it is so silky and just and so I want to spin that up, and I think that remember I said I want to do more neutrals in 2024, so I'm going to spin up that dark gray, and I think that this would pop really nicely on a dark gray background, and maybe like a sweater vest or something. Oh, by the way, this pattern is a Yarnspirations pattern that was a sweater vest, and I just picked up the sleeves and made my own cap sleeves. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, if I have enough yarn to do just a little sweater vest and do some color work with this, I think that'll be real nice. Then what else do I have here? This is some of the Into the World that I did on the drop spindle and plied on the drop spindle, and then I decided that I didn't want to do plying, like the 100 days of drop spindle spinning. I just wanted to spin singles the whole time. I didn't want plying to be a part of it because plying really slows me down, and I was like, I'll just spin it all singles and then ply it on the wheel. And so this was the beginning, and you can already see how plump that is there. And then see how thin that is there, so you can see how, and then where is I put it back in the bag. And then look at my singles now. You can really see the difference in how I've been spinning. Like this is barely twisted together, and it's like super fluffy here. And so if you want to up your drop spindle game, I greatly, even if you can do every day 15 minutes, 7 days a week for a week. If you could do every Saturday for an hour, just whatever works for you. And like I said, it did get a little tedious, but I have seen an improvement. I have become a lot more patient with myself. I have seen progress. I've been happier too, like, because I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna do my spinning, and I put on like I listen to like maybe 2 or 3 songs depending on the artist and the genre. 15 minutes of music will get you these days, or I put on one of my podcasts, and I just get it done. And sometimes I'm tired, and of course, like, respect yourself and respect your body, but sometimes I'm tired myself into never doing anything, you know what I mean? And so there were days where I was sick, there were days where I was tired, and I kind of just pushed through and did it, even if it was, like I said, at least 15 minutes. There was days I did more than 15, or there were at least days where I got a little bit of drafting done, or days where I was like, I got all my spindles filled, and so let me ply them, as long as I was like touching the wool and playing with the wool, and still having just like, I could find some sliver of motivation, then I was good. But like I said, I'm at day 52, and I could stop any day now and I would be fine, and I wouldn't think less of myself, because this is an ever going thing, and I'm doing this while I'm knitting other things, while I'm spinning other things, while I'm raising children, while I'm going to work, while I'm surviving the hellscape that is the world we live in. And it's, 15 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I'm doing it all, and, good for me. I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm saying that because I need to hear it from myself sometimes. It especially was hard going from being on a 2-week Christmas vacation to then going back to work. And being on a Christmas vacation when it was like 50 degrees on Christmas Day, and then going back to work and it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for that. But that is all I had to update y'all on. I just wanted to chat with y'all. Feel free to chat with me in the comments. Are you doing 100 days of drop spindle spinning? Are you doing any sort of, challenge for yourself? Are you a challenge type person, or you just let it ride? Let me know. Once again, this is candibknittin. I am candibknittin@gmail.com, but I am also at Whirled on Instagram and at Whirled on Ko-fi. I think that's all the things you can find me on. Unless you know me in real life, then you can just give me a call or whatever. But until the next time, peace.